We could be entering into a golden age of property investing. You've got to be in it to win it. And it's gone on to triple in value since the day we bought it. Wow, that's amazing. We'll have a free house. None of my properties are perfect, but all of them bring me cash flow. Managed to connect the lecky to next door. It was a cannabis factory. But before we get started in this video, make sure you like and subscribe. Right, shall we hop in the Tesla and I'll show you around some of my properties.
As nice and as lovely as she seems, don't be fooled. This grandma is wicked smart when it comes to property investing. She has built a property portfolio worth millions of pounds with thousands of pounds of net monthly cash flow. So don't get fooled. What we're going to do today is we're going to follow this lovely granny around to see how she goes about investing in properties in the UK. And then I'm going to show you how to find profitable deals that are similar or following at least the same investment strategy in the same area that this grandmother went from 0 to millions instantly. But before we do, let's hear her inspiring story, how she went from being a normal person to becoming a property millionaire, and how she struggled and saved every penny to get onto the property ladder and follow the pitbull granny to investment success. And I want you to keep in mind, if she can do it, so can you.
We took every last penny that we had and we used it to pay down our mortgage. And then my friends Miles and Joe came for Sunday lunch. They'd just bought a little house near the station in Derby. But they explained what they were going to do. They said, well, we're going to rent it out. The rent that the tenant's going to pay is actually more than the mortgage. We'll have a free house. Wow. And I said, that's amazing. And they said, yes, it is. You should do it. So I did. I called my independent financial advisor and I said, I want to mortgage this house, because we had this fairly modest but nice-ish house. We're going to mortgage that house and I'm going to take that money and start investing in property. So that's exactly what we did. So these properties, and I own both of them, were the type of properties that I started buying when I first started investing in property. They were entirely the wrong type of property to buy, really, because what I was doing is what many people do when they get started in property. I was buying with my heart, not with my head. So I was looking for the type of property that I could see myself in. Now the challenge with these type of properties are you cannot add any value to them, or hardly any value to them. When I bought them, they were virtually new. Didn't need a new kitchen, didn't need a new bathroom. So there was no way to force the appreciation as there is with the kind of older terraced houses. You can't change the rooms around. The rooms inside are too small. You can't add another bedroom. You can't do anything to it to make it worth more.
And that is how a lovely puppy turned into a property investing pit bull. It's very easy to make that common mistake of investing into properties that you feel like you would want to live in yourself. But when it comes to investing, there is no such thing as emotions. The only thing that really matters is clear logic, investment analysis, and buying the things that put money into your pocket, short-term or long-term. So keep your emotions out.
So now I'm going to take you and show you the type of properties I buy right now and the type of properties that you should be buying.
Let's go, Pitbull Granny. Educate us. Show us how it's done.
So that is 13 John Street in Heanor. And that's a very solid mid-Victorian terraced house, which is a family home. Okay, so we get out and look at it. If we look at the house from this angle, what I really liked about it is you can see that the roof is pretty good. The important thing to know about a roof is it doesn't actually add anything to what we call the perceived value of a property. So when we're doing our refurbs on the buy, refurbish, rent, refinance strategy, you want to be adding value to a property in a way that doesn't cost a huge amount of money, but does add £1 worth of spend to increase the value by £3. So 98% of properties in the UK have got a roof on them. So replacing the roof doesn't tend to add anything to the value of the property in terms of its uplift. Inside the house, it had what we call a back boiler. So this is a boiler that is behind the fireplace. So I replaced that with a condensing combi boiler, and this rents out for, I believe, £585 per calendar month. So a decent yield to a family. The family have been in here over 5 years now. So although I'm increasing the rent every year in line with inflation, if and when those family does move out, I will be able to uplift the rent even more than that. So things really changed for me when I stopped buying properties with my heart and started buying them with my head. when I got properly trained and properly educated, and I learnt what properties were going to be the most profitable. As my old mum used to say, handsome is as handsome does. The house behind me is not the most attractive house in my portfolio, but it's one of the better yielding ones. It's a great, great cash machine. There are deals, maybe not on this street, but in the next street or the street after. There are deals everywhere. We never know when. You just have to keep out there and keep going.
Not so sweet anymore, huh? So you heard her right, she's really, really smart. What you want to look for is properties that are run down, that are in need for a refurbishment. And when you refurbish a property, what you really want to pay attention to is what needs to be refurbished. Because there are parts of a property that when refurbishing them, they do not add value in a disproportionate amount to the property. What do I mean by that? For example, as she points out there, if you replace a roof and that roof costs you £10,000 to replace, just an example, then that £10,000 will not add more than £10,000 to the property. However, if you replace a kitchen, or if you add a boiler, or if you remodel a living room or a bedroom, or you do other stuff that is value enhancing, then for every pound that you invest, you will add £3 of value to the property, and that is called an uplift. And a smart BRRR investor looks for properties that allow them to refurbish in a way that it adds more value than they invest for the refurb. So let's now go to Dealsourcer and look exactly in this area that Granny is in here and see if we can find some really nice BRRR properties using Dealsourcer, the app. Alright, so I'm in Hina here, it's DE75, and I'm gonna locate more or less Jones Street, which is right here, and this is where the pitbull Granny was hunting for deals. To be fair, I couldn't find anything that is classified as a refurb. So what I did instead is I looked for properties selling below market value, BMV, and I have done a bit of pre-screening so we don't waste time here. I located this 4-bed house, which is in the proximity. If I hover over it, I'll show you. So St. John's right here, and that house is down here on, I guess, Abbott. And I think that fair enough, it's close enough, and it's selling 23% BMV. So let's click into the deal and see what we can do. All right, so it's on the market for 160, and we have a value estimate based on the comps of £1,523 per square meter for properties in similar condition, which would put the value at 196,800. Okay, so that's 23% below market value. What I then look for additionally is that the property makes cash flow after paying for, you know, stamp duty and paying for the running costs and paying for anything else that you would need to get the property up and running. So that's a good starting point. I'll then go down to the local rents and the local sold prices just to corroborate that my rent estimate, or the rent estimate that Dealsourcer is giving you, and the sold prices of similar properties are actually in range. Okay, so you got to corroborate that. You got to make sure that that checks out. Then I look usually a little bit at rental growth and capital growth last 5 years. I don't want to buy into anything that has had a huge uplift in the general capital growth in the area. 22% over 5 years is not too terrible. Rental growth of 2%, it's kind of flat, and that at least indicates that we're not in a terrible bubble and we're not paying like way too high a price. I then open the deal analyzer and I do a little bit of an analysis, and I have looked at, by the way, at the property, the pictures. It's in a decent condition. It is not in a great condition, but so definitely you can't do like a full refurb and add a ton of value by, you know, replacing maybe the bathroom or something like that. All right, so another thing that I like to do is I like to go into the description of the property, because very often you find exact numbers of existing tenants, and that's exactly what you get here. You see that they're achieving 950 per calendar month on in situ tenants. So that means you have an exact number and probably can pump that number a little bit up, maybe by 100, 150 pounds. So let's open the deal analyzer to get into the deal. 160 purchase price. We get mortgage for 120, 40k deposit, stamp duty, legal fees, and we leave it as is because the property is obviously rentable because there are tenants in there. And then, you know, I just want to look at what happens if I increased that property rent to 950. You can see you already got an ROI of 6%. Maybe I can pump it up, you know, another 150 bucks. 150 pounds, and then I get an hour of 9%, which is already respectable if I can, you know, just have the tenants in there in the meanwhile. And then what I'm really looking for is the flip, okay? If I leave the property as is and I get it sold for that 1,500, I rounded it down here, and I realized 193k in estimated sale price. After the agent fee, I'm making 26k in flip profit. In the meanwhile, in the meantime, I'm earning, you know, somewhere between, let's say, 6 to 9% ROI. That's respectable. So that could turn out to be a really, really nice deal. So, you know, you always have to think of different ways of how you can structure a deal, how you can make it work, what you can do with it. I didn't look at whether I can turn any rooms into, you know, additional bedrooms or something like that, but definitely that's something to investigate. It's not a terrible deal. It's not a great deal. It's something that might work.
144 Station Road. We're going to park here. And you can hear we're on a really, really busy road. Key thing about this property, it has literally no parking. It's on a double yellow line. That means that I was able to secure this property at a significant discount. So this property was bought for £50,000, but it did need a load of work doing to it. So you can see I've had to put a new roof on it. And as I said previously, a new roof doesn't actually add much to the value of the property, but it really needed it because rain was coming in. So I changed it from a 2-bedroom house to a 3-bedroom house. Although it doesn't look it, it's quite huge inside. So it's now got a single bedroom where the bathroom was and 2 still good sized double bedrooms. The property rents out for £525 per calendar month. Properties like this, they yield really good and tenants tends to stay really long term. My average length of tenancy in properties like this is over 5 years. So the income's pretty passive. Tenants tend to pay and stay.
And here Granny pulls another rabbit out of the hat trick. Look at this. This is an amazing deal she did. She looked for a property that is missing the double yellow line, so there was no parking space, and for that reason the property was being sold at a very depressed price. On top of that, it had a leaking roof, so rain was coming in, and she had to, in this case, replace the roof to make this property work, to be able to let it out. And this is exactly what you want to do. You want to look for this kind of quirky, special type of situations where the property is kind of unlettable, but with a little bit of investment, it turns into something that is lettable, because price is what you pay and value is what you get. And she did the calculation. She calculated how much she has to put in terms of refurbishing the roof and how much of a discount she can get for that missing double line parking space in what is a very busy street. Additionally, listen to her and listen to her good. What did she do? She turned a bathroom into an additional bedroom. What does that do? It gives you additional bedrooms. So now the property is not a 2-bedroom property, but a 3-bedroom property. And usually you charge by the bedroom, and that means she can pump up the net monthly earnings or rent she's taking in, and that increases her ROI. So probably she's doing a really, really decent ROI on that amazing property that she found. So let's see if we can find more properties like this in the same area using the Dealsourcer software. Alright, 144 Station Road is near Hina, but it's actually Langley Mill. I've looked around that area now extensively, and basically there are no deals in that area. So Pitbull Granny really did a great job finding that particular deal. It might be due to an increase in property prices over the last couple of years that really prevent us from finding any deals. But just to be sure that we're looking at the right area, if I zoom in here on Langley, you can see We're here on Station Road, and that is exactly the area where Granny was looking, and I just couldn't find anything. So, you know, Dealsourcer as a software finds you the deals depending on a period or a point in time. So as deals move around in terms of their availability, their profitability, their ROI, their BMV, obviously the landscape changes, and you can't always ensure that you will find a deal in a particular area, because that really depends on whether that area is currently trending, not trending, whether there's rental demand, no rental demand, whether there's development work going on, and so on and so forth. So I give it up to Granny. She beat me on Langley Mill. I couldn't do anything, but I think we found a really nice deal or potential deal in Heener previously. So respect to Pitbull Granny for closing that particularly nice deal in such a weird, quirky situation with the double yellow lines and the missing roof, so to speak. So thumbs up for that.
So I promised you some mistakes, and this is 33 Elmsfield Avenue, where I made a big mistake. I engaged a letting agent to manage this house, but the rent was coming in and I was leveraging and outsourcing. I got a letting agent manage it, so I thought everything was great. I was finally alerted to a problem when we got a letter about the gas safety certificate of the property. The letter said, we have been unable to carry out the gas safety check on the property because there is no gas at the house. And I was like, what? What do you mean there's no gas at the house? There's a combi boiler on the wall in the kitchen. Anyway, to cut a very long story short, there was no gas at this house. The tenants had nicked the boiler. They had disconnected the gas. They'd taken all the radiators away. They had somehow, by some shizzle manizzle, managed to connect the leck heater next door, hermetically seal the house. It was a cannabis factory. So when the tenant was evicted, because that's an illegal activity, what we then had to do was carry out a refurb on the house. And this is before I knew anything about selecting the correct refurb team or how to manage them. And the refurb on this very ordinary house turned out to be around £30,000 way back in the day. So that was a big lesson learned for me. But what I didn't do was I didn't sell it. And it's gone on to triple in value since the day we bought it, so I'm glad we kept it. It rents out nicely now to a nice young family. A key lesson here is you need the right members of your power team, a great letting agent. Choose a great tenant that's going to pay and stay.
So as you can see, even our lovely Pitbull Granny is not perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. But the important bit is that you A, learn from your mistakes, and B, you find ways to turn your mistakes into opportunities and into money at the end. So what she did there is she had a bit of a difficult situation with some tenants turning her property into a cannabis plantation. But at the end of the day, she kept the property, and through capital appreciation, by investing into an area that is trending upwards in terms of capital appreciation, she tripled her money on the property. It's really amazing what you can do, and you have to think clearly, I never know how to say, to really make money in property investing, and Pitbull Granny clearly does. And so for that reason, and for being such an inspiration to so many people around the internet or around the UK, I'll give her the last word. If you like this video, please hit like and subscribe. I put content out like this all the time, and really subscribing to the channel helps us. Also, we have Dealsourcer on a free trial for 7 days, and right now if you subscribe you get 20% off. The link is in the description. It gets you straight to Dealsourcer. You just put in your email and you get the free trial, and you can cancel anytime. So thank you very much. I'm Andres, the co-founder of Dealsourcer, and with that I'll pass on to Pitbull Granny.
So I've shared my story with you, and I've shown you some of my properties. You may have been sort of thinking about getting into property for ages and ages. We're potentially entering into unprecedented times in the property world. Now is the time to get educated. Now is the time for you to take action and start to build your property business. And the first thing you can do to get started is to subscribe to this YouTube channel. We've got lots of videos on all aspects of property investing. Thanks very much for watching.